Live on the air. Here we go. Welcome, everybody, to the Wholesale Real Estate Investing Show, number 251 by SAHA. And on this, 23rd or 5th? 25th day. I think I mentioned 23rd on the other. 25th day of April 2016. Negotiation NEWOPDAY. Welcome all to the Hangout. I'm Paul Romero, of course, and I am here in Phoenix, Arizona, hanging out with my partner, business partner, John Leister, who it will be on the screen here in a moment. But I just want to say that we have a lovely day here in Phoenix. Going to be a little bit breezy, windy today. Hopefully not too bad. Boy, we had one last couple weeks ago that was just like nasty wind, big brown skies, ugly day, but hopefully this one isn't too bad. Feels really great out here this morning. Feeling good. NEWOPDAY, Negotiation NEWOPDAY, one of our favorite days of the week because it's all about how to win friends and influence people. Dale Carnegie, our training manual for our property noodler team, people teaching our people how to get out there, get wholesale deals, and make money. So let us know where you're hanging out from. We always like to know where our crowd is hanging out from. Send us a message on the chat line, and let's get into it. We are in chapter 4 of part 3 in the book. We got to just take a peek at this here. I want to say what part 3 is, because if you wonder why we feel this is a training manual for wholesale real estate, let me just tell you the title to part 3 that we're in. How to win people to your way of thinking. Let's think about that for a second. I am looking up a potentially motivated seller to want to buy it because I want to buy their house from them at a discount so that I can turn around and sell it to somebody else for a higher price, and I can make money on the spread. So, do you think it would be beneficial if I could get that seller, if I could win that seller over into my way of thinking? Do you think the seller is sitting there going, I can't wait to sell my house for a discount to a guy who can turn around and make money on it? I don't think that's what he's thinking right now. All right. So your ability to win that seller over into your way of thinking could be a very beneficial skill to learn. Wouldn't you agree? I was just saying, John, how is this book a training manual for wholesale real estate? And I read off the title of this this part 3 of this book, which is how to win people over to your way of thinking. And I said, well, let's think about that for a second. You are going to sit down and talk with a seller, and you want to buy their house from them at a discounted price so that you can turn around and sell it to somebody else for a higher price and make money on the spread, right? Okay, so would it be beneficial to be able to win your seller over to your way of thinking? I mean, do you really think that the seller is sitting there right now going, I can't wait to sell my house to a guy so that he can turn around and sell it to somebody else and make money?
Well, it takes a certain abilities that are learnable. So that's the good news here. Let's preface off this whole discussion we're going to get into today by saying everything we talk about here is a learnable skill. Quite frankly, you can be learning it from this book, but the learning is going to come through your application. And what better way to apply all this than going out there and talking to these sellers of real estate, correct? Well, just to throw in a little piece here. Well, good morning, everybody, by the way. Sorry I was detained for a minute or two before I can get to the screen here. But we do talk about the How to Win Friends and Influence People book every NEWOPDAY, which I'm sure Paul already introduced. So with that, key thing here about this section of the book, How to Win People to Your Way of Thinking, very important. Because a lot of times, and let's relate this directly to wholesale real estate, what makes a successful wholesaler? Well, a wholesaler is someone that can negotiate a seller to get a discounted price on a piece of real estate. In order to do that, we've got to find the seller that's motivated. But the seller might be in a motivating situation, but they really don't know how motivated they are until they meet with the wholesaler, who has to have the ability to educate them a little bit and motivate them as well to see that this property is a problem. How do we do that? Well, let's get into the nuts and bolts of today's chapter, A Drop of Honey, and that'll shed a little bit of light on how we do that.
Yeah, exactly. Quick recap here of the first 3 chapters in this part 3, just the basic principles behind them. Chapter 1, the only way to get the best of an argument is to avoid it. Definitely don't want to be arguing with the people. Number 2, show respect for the other person's opinions. Never say you're wrong. You always want to agree with them to a certain extent, but you will agree with them first and then point out the differences in your way of thinking. And then the third principle is, if you are wrong, admit it quickly and emphatically, and then they're not going to be against you on that matter. And then chapter 4 here, we're getting into a drop of honey. Begin in a friendly way. I like what he talks about here. He opens this chapter up by saying, talking about President Woodrow Wilson kind of put it this way. He said, well, first of all, let me read the opening paragraph because it's important to set this up. If your temper is aroused and you tell them a thing or two, will you have a fine time unloading your feelings? Yes, you will. But what about the other person? Will he share your pleasure? Will your belligerent tones and hostile attitude make it easy for him to agree with you? Heck no. He said, Woodrow Wilson puts it this way. If you come at me with your fist doubled, I think I can promise you that mine will double just as fast as yours. But if you come at me and say, let's sit down and take counsel together, and if we differ from each other, understand why it is that we differ, just what the points at issue are. God, I'm sorry, I'm just totally reading that wrong. Let me start that over. If you come at me with fists doubled, I can promise you that mine will double just as quickly as yours. But if you come at me and you say, let's sit down and take counsel together, and if we differ from each other, understand why it is that we differ, just what the points at issue are, we will presently find that we are not so far apart after all, and that the points on which we differ are few and the points on which we agree are many, and that if we only have the patience and the candor and the desire to get together, we will get together. There, said it.
Said it and got through it. I'm just kind of reflecting on that because there's a lot of wisdom there. And, you know, we've gone through 2/3 of the book now. Does anybody that's joined us on these NEWOP Hangouts see the underlying theme to all of this? Just going over what the, where's my recap? Just going over what these principles of this section of the book look like. Principle 1 of this last section, the only way to get the best of an argument is to avoid it. Principle 2, show respect for the other person's opinions by never saying you're wrong. And this third principle, if you're wrong, admit it quickly and emphatically. And principle 4, I won't tell you exactly what principle 4 is till we get to the end of this, but this is all leading towards one basic concept, and that's just being open to sit down and talking to people in terms of what's in it for them, what's best for them. Do you realize that's the overall tone of this entire book, is always being open to let the other person speak first, listen, admit when you're wrong, not be combative, argumentative, or criticizing the person that you're doing business with or a person you're trying to win favor with. And as he said here, If you come at me with your fists doubled, I'm going to come back at you with fists equally or doubly doubled. And that's the way 98% of people are going to react. So when you go into a sales situation, in this case, speaking with your motivated seller, you want to address them and introduce yourself to them in a very non-threatening sort of a way, a very friendly, soft type of approach, breaking the ice before you identify their problem. And when you do identify their problem, you present that financial issue they're having. That's, after all, who we speak to, who's motivated to sell real estate, mainly are people in financially motivating situations. You're going to come at them from a place of wanting to help, wanting to break the ice, of wanting to introduce not just a problem, but begin talking about solutions. And you want to do this in a non-combative, non-aggressive sort of approach, because they're in an uncomfortable situation already. You got to apply these sort of tactics, not even tactics, these ways of approach if you want to make headway with these people.
To break this down just even a little bit further than that, what this book is really all about is just simply developing within yourself a pleasing personality. If you have a pleasing personality, people are going to warm up and be willing to sit down and talk with you and to get to everything that John was just talking about. If you're an aggravating asshole, nobody's going to want to talk with you, period. That's the bottom line, and you're never going to get anywhere with anybody. If you develop a pleasing personality in this world, like I said, anybody that you get into a conversation with, whether they're an aggravating asshole or not, it makes no difference. But even if they are, your pleasing personality is going to win even that person over 95% of the time. There's going to be 5% of the time when the angry, aggravating, unsettled, whatever person, crazy, half crazy, whatever you want to call them, whatever their problem is just going to not be able to be overcome at all by anyone. And that's just going to happen. There's people out there that are that way, and there's nothing you're going to be able to do about that. But the whole idea of developing this pleasing personality to be able to talk to people in a way that curbs all of that settles all of that down, is what this book is really all about. And going on here, the rest of this chapter, he really just gets into a few different little example stories about this. The first one being John D. Rockefeller, who had what was the
Colorado strike,
fuel and iron company in Colorado, yeah, and everybody was on strike. This was a nasty strike. Property had been destroyed, the troops had been called out, blood had been shed, strikers had been shot, their body riddled with bullets, and at a time like that, with just hatred seething through the air, Rockefeller goes and shows up in town and sits down with several of the labor leaders, I guess you would call them, and goes and sits with them in their home and talks with them and has dinner with them and meets their family and their kids. And then he comes out, after sitting down and doing this with several of these guys, stands up before the entire group and just delivers this amazing little speech here that starts out, what is this? He starts out by saying, "This is a red letter day in my life. It is the first time I have ever had a good fortune to meet the representatives of the employees of this great company, its officers and superintendents all together. And I can assure you that I am proud to be here and that I shall remember this gathering as long as I live. Had this meeting been held 2 weeks ago, I would have stood here a stranger to most of you, recognizing a few faces. Having had the opportunity last week of visiting all the camps in the southern coal field and of talking individually with practically all of the representatives, except those who were away, having visited in your homes, met many of your wives and children. We meet here today not as strangers, but as friends. And it is in that spirit of mutual friendship that I am glad to have this opportunity to discuss with you our common interests. Since this meeting of officers is of the company and the representatives of the employees, it is only by your courtesy that I am here, for I am not so fortunate as to be either one or the other, and yet I feel that I am intimately associated with you men, for in a sense, I represent both the stockholders and the directors. Isn't that a superb example of fine art of making friends out of enemies? I mean, come on. When you start off like that, I mean, could you imagine if he started off, suppose he started off on a different track, and suppose he started off argue with these guys, you know, with the miners, and hurling devastating facts in their faces. Suppose he told them by, you know, his tones and insinuations that they were wrong. Suppose that by all the rules of logic, he had proved that they were wrong. What would have happened? I mean, look at the difference there.
What would have happened is the strikes probably would have continued, have been just as bloody. Reason being, people don't like to be talked down to. People don't like to be told they're wrong. People don't like to be argued with. And there's quite a few different types of people out there in the world, but you've got really mainly two types. You've got the kind of person that when confronted by someone else in an aggressive manner, they retreat within themselves. They don't want to fight with you. They've lost all respect for you. They stop listening to what you have to say, and they're closed off to you. They won't argue with you. They'll nod their head. You think you won them, but no, you've just pissed them off and alienated them. Or you've got the other type of person which you confront, you approach in a confrontational sort of a manner, and they're going to blow up back at you the way you're coming at them. And again, you're not making any progress, you're not winning any favor, and you're getting no work done. But to approach people in this manner, as Rockefeller did these strikers, in a pleasing, friendly way, opening up with, in the spirit of cooperation and friendship and understanding, goes a lot further. And what time is it? Okay, we still got about 10 minutes to discuss this. But, I mean, I'm just going to let you guys in on a secret right now of what the principle of this chapter is the principle is to begin in a friendly way. Begin your conversations in a friendly way. And this is so critical to just Paul and I's system in wholesale real estate of how we train our people to approach sellers. Is we always tell them to go out and break the ice. First thing is break the ice. And how do you break the ice? Well, you begin breaking the ice in a friendly way. This chapter is an awesome one to review today, Paul, just in spirit of what we do every single day in our business. This is the first thing we do when we talk to a seller.
Yeah, exactly.
In a friendly way. So exactly. We're going over step one right now of Paul and I's system, our sales system.
Yeah, just to help drive the home point, here's another story of another striking company, 2,500 employees of the White Motor Company. And, he says here, the president of the company, he didn't lose his temper and condemn and threaten all the and talk of tyranny and communists. He actually praised the strikers. He published an advertisement in the Cleveland papers, complimenting them on the peaceful way in which they laid down their tools. Finding the strikers, the strikers sitting idle, he bought them a couple of dozen baseball bats and gloves and invited them to play ball on the vacant lots. And for those who preferred bowling, he rented a bowling alley. I mean, and the next thing you know, here you got the strikers. The strikers go out and they borrow brooms and shovels and rubbish carts and start picking up all the matches and papers and cigarette stubs and cigar butts around the factory. These guys are on strike. They're pissed off and they're cleaning the place up. I mean, can you imagine that?
You know what better way to win favor with your opponents, so to speak? Not that I ever go into a wholesale negotiation looking as that person as my opponent. But look at how much cooperation fostering a friendly environment could have.
Yeah, I mean,
this is just really powerful stuff. And yeah, that's what I love about this book. You not only get a history lesson, you also get a history lesson from the point of view of examples of how these different principles have changed the course of history amongst leaders and men. Think about that.
Here he talks about a famous attorney, Daniel Webster, not to be confused with the guy who wrote the dictionary, although I think maybe he was the same. I don't know. But anyway, he talks about this attorney who just, would always use such friendly remarks as, "It will be for the jury to consider. This may perhaps be worth thinking of. Here are some facts that I trust you will not lose sight of. You, with your knowledge of human nature, will easily see the significance of these facts. No bulldozing, no high-pressure methods, no attempt to force his opinions on others. Soft-spoken, quiet, friendly approach, and it helped to make him famous." Those sorts of things right there. Not bulldozing your client with, "Hey, you got a problem, and I'll buy your house from you." The much softer approach is the way you break down that barrier. Sorry, I'm drinking my shake here, and it's giving me the kind of a disturbing my speech patterns. But yeah, but an attorney saying those kinds of soft things, you apply that sort of approach to how you're approaching a seller there, and it makes a huge difference.
Absolutely. What's working right now in the Phoenix market as far as acquiring wholesale deals is literally you have to bring this to the people. The days of sending out a couple thousand mailers, although it still works, unless you've got a $40,000 a month mail marketing budget, you're really not going to take your wholesale real estate business off the ground. And let's pretend for 1 minute that you did have a $40,000 mail marketing budget and your phones are ringing off the hook daily. Would that necessarily mean your business is going to take off? No, not unless you have the people skills. I can't just reiterate the importance of this anymore. And it's not just people skills. It's people skills, but how you approach people, how you break ice with the people. I've been watching this sales trainer guru named Jeffrey Gitomer, and what he kind of states in his videos and in his different books and materials is kind of, I bet you, I would go off on a limb here to say he's definitely studied this book in his application and building of his own sales model. And he stresses in one of his latest videos that I watched about the old saying, always be closing, and how pathetic and wrong way of thinking that really is, and an outdated, outmoded way of thinking, always be closing. You might say, well, without the close, there's no sale. But if you're focused on the close, but not the opening and how you break ice and how you introduce and how you begin to warm someone up, if you're not focused on that first, you'll never get to the close, because you've got to be thinking about the other person and be thinking about what's in it for them and how to present your offer, not necessarily giving the person the highest offer that they're going to receive, but giving that person the highest value. And ask yourself these questions when you go into a negotiation with somebody is, how can I present my offer to them that's going to provide them with the highest amount of value? How do I make them perceive a drastic difference between me and my competition? What is the value beyond the price that I can offer these people? Because if you take away your value proposition, and if you take away your ability to have them perceive the difference between you and the competitor, all you have left is price, right? And if all you're working with is price, you're going to lose the sale, or you're going to diminish your profit. So two things suffer. If all you've got is price and you don't have any rapport and you haven't established your value and the difference between you and your competitor, what happens, two things happen when all you have is price. You're either going to lose the sale or you're going to be closing at the expense of your profit. So and the answer to that question about what do you have you and your ability to show your value to your prospect. And how do you do that? Well, one of the ways is you open and you get started by being friendly.
You know, I mean, are first impressions important? First impressions are huge. Okay. So which is the first impression is huge. And like John was just saying there, what is the difference there? What is the value that you can offer? You are that difference, and you are that value that you can offer. So, you know, when you make a good first impression, then you have built, you know, you've bridged that gap that gives you the ability to make that negotiation and to be the person, to be that difference, and to be, you know, that value, that additional value that, you know, the other guy can't offer. If you don't make that first impression, or if you make that first impression the wrong way, that bridge is never going to get built. You'll never be able to bridge that gap, because that person is just, they're not going to be on board with you regardless of what you have or what you do. And then you're going to be left with, like John said, at that point in time, you're left with coming down to nothing but price. So do nice guys finish first? Heck yeah, they finish first.
I don't know where nice guys finish last came in. You know, that's still such a popular saying in sales, along with ABC, always be closing. And you know what? We got 3 minutes left. I want to free flow a little bit of some thoughts that I've been having. I've been making a list of all of what I believe to be standard statements made by salespeople that are the problem with 98% of salespeople. Always be closing is one. Another one is fake it till you make it. That's terrible. You can't make it if you fake it. You won't ask for help. You won't seek out the right mentors. You won't seek out the right information. If you can make it by faking it, why would you ever learn to actually be real? You just be fake all the time, right?
And people are going to see through that eventually.
And people are going to see through that eventually. What was the other one you just said there, Paul?
Nice guys finish last.
Nice guys finish last, the title of today's thing, and how that's even bullshit. You know, I would say in sales, those are three. The problem with those three statements is that salespeople are still using those three statements. Nice people don't, nice people finish last. No, people want to do business with people they perceive to be nice, with people they perceive to be adding value, with people they perceive to stand out from the rest of the competition or the rest of the people out there doing what they're doing. You got to be nice. Nice people do not finish last. You have to you can't be thinking always be closing. You got to think about, how should I be opening in a friendly, positive manner and breaking the ice and building rapport and earning trust before you start thinking about closing. Because if you can do those things, the closing is going to come simple and the closing will come natural. And the other thing I said there is about don't fake it till you make it, be real. Because this day and age, that's what people are dying for, is honesty and truth. So if you could do these three simple things, you're going to build that perceived value and the difference in your prospect's mind. You're going to stand light years ahead of your competition, who are still thinking in those outdated wrong ways of thinking.
Yes, exactly. And like you were saying a minute ago, our system, this obviously is step one, always be closing. We've eliminated that in our system because obviously what we just talked about here, beginning in a friendly way, is what we teach. Number two, fake it till you make it. We've eliminated that because our third step in the process is admit when you're wrong, or what is it? Admit your ignorance. You know what? Hey, I don't freaking know, dude. I just started at this. I have no clue what the hell I'm doing out here. They just send me out here to talk to you and let you know what the heck's going on. And if you really want to know some more stuff, let me hook you up with the guy that really knows, okay? Seriously, because I mean, I don't know shit. Don't need to fake nothing. And people love that. You know, when our guys get to that point, and they're like, they're like, dude, man, I don't know shit. They just send me out here to freaking talk to you guys and let you know what's going on. If you really want some information, let me hook you up with the guys that know. I mean, I don't have the answers to that question. I'm sorry, but I can get them for you. Right? I can get them on the phone right now. That's the way it works, and it's so much more receptive on the other end when you go that way, and that's how our nice guys finish first and not last. And with that, I know John's got one more word. I can see him chomping at the jaw here to get it out. I just want to say that finishing off this chapter, because the rest of it is pretty much just some more awesome stories. Go read them. They're cool as heck. Just supporting this point of what Lincoln said. President Lincoln said, "A drop of honey catches more flies than a gallon of gall." And remember to always begin in a friendly way. John, take it home and close us out.
Okay, my final thought is, you take into consideration those like 3 sales faux pas sayings and apply that to what we're talking about here about beginning in a friendly, honest, truthful, real way. Being yourself is, we don't fake it till we make it. We're honest and real about who we are. In turn, that's going to make us friendly, non-threatening, and put us on the level where people are going to want to do business with them. Because if we don't know an answer for somebody, we're not sitting there trying to provide an answer or fake an answer. We're being honest and telling someone we don't have something. It puts us in a position to help them, because now we can say, but I can get you that answer. And you go out and you work on that, and you do find in that answer. You don't think about the close until you actually successfully open the sale in a friendly way and begin to build trust and rapport. And nice guys finish first, in our opinion, and that's who's going to have real success in this business. Real, honest people with integrity that start conversations with people in a friendly way. And that's all I have to say. So with that, universe, I ask not for more riches, but for more wisdom with which to make better use of the riches that have been given to me at birth, consisting in the power to control and direct my own mind to whatever ends I may frackin' desire. And I desire to go out there today and get myself a deal by being an awesome, super honest, friendly person.
All right. Just to lead us into next New Op Day, is Socrates a smart guy? Would you like to know his secret? Be with us next New Op Day, and we'll tell you all about that. Until then, have a great session. We'll see you back here on Wisdom Wednesdays for some more great stuff. Have a good day.